Hey gang, John Baccarelli here with your Lake St. Clair Fishing Report, brought to you by Sportsmen's Direct. It's Thursday, June 12th. Water temperature at Belle Isle is at 63 degrees, so it's up a couple of degrees from last week when it was 61. Not surprising with the weather we've had, and it's just going to be kind of nice, stable weather for the next week. But let's take a look at the satellite image. We actually got a pretty good shot. This is from yesterday, so it was during or towards the end of that big crazy south blow that we had that took it up to I don't know how warm it got yesterday, like upper 80s or at least mid 80s yesterday. Anyways, it was pretty darn warm, but then cooled off great last night. But anyways, so satellite image was taken during that big blow. Just a nice mix out on the lake right now. Nothing real dirty. You got some clean water. You got some off-colored water. There's something there for everybody. So I wouldn't think water clarity would be an issue for anyone, other than, as I've told lots of you guys when you come into the store too, where you ask me where you should start out at, and I generally give you the same answer, especially fishing for smallies, is at least start out where the bottom disappears, just for the sake of the fact that you have a little bit of a tactical advantage in that case. So usually if you're fishing an area where it's so clear you can see the bottom easily, that means the fish are going to be skittish. If they're on beds, they're going to hold better for you, obviously. But other than that, if they have any reason that that they can move and they see you, they're going to move. So I generally start out where you lose sight of the bottom. That's usually a good rule of thumb for casting for smallies and panfish and a lot of other species. So let's talk about the weather forecast then going forward for the next few days. Big blow was yesterday. Today was light easterly winds, and it looks like we're going to have a light east wind for the next couple of days, and that shouldn't spook anybody if the forecast is correct and it's 10 miles an hour or less. It's not really going to do anything, and hopefully the weatherman is right. And all that light east wind could do is bring a whole bunch of mayflies to shore on our side, because the mayfly hatch has started. It may not be that noticeable on land, but if you get out to places like on the point at Metro that's got the wind blowing across it, you'll notice there's a lot of mayflies out there. But inland right now, I haven't noticed any here on this end of the lake. I would guess that maybe up in Anchor Bay, they might have got some with that big south blow that we had, but I didn't hear anything up there. But anyways, the mayflies are hatching now, so are the caddisflies, and that's all a good thing, okay? So that's going to give a lot of these fish food that they need at this time of the year. Gives birds, the young of the year birds and everything, food, but it's really gotten the top water bite going for both panfish and for bass, and I'll get to the bass in a little bit here. But so the caddisflies and mayflies are all hatching, and that's a really good thing. And as I talked about last week, that means you generally have to start changing your focus. These perch are out in those soft bottom areas because the mayflies that are hatching, there's bait fish out there. I mean, that whole chain of life kind of revolves around all the aquatic insects out in this lake at this time of the year, and now they're all starting to hatch. So, and that's gonna collect all these fish. As far as where the guys are catching perch, getting reports down there on the south end of the lake on American waters near that 7 can. That's been going for a while. Still getting perch over on the Canadian side, over by the Bell River hump. Haven't heard anything lately about the weather buoy, but I would imagine that's still going out there. Mouth of the South Channel should be getting fish out there by the St. Clair Light now as well. So starting to see a lot of perch showing up in everybody's catches of walleye, and more. And some now it's starting to look like catches of perch and then walleye mixed in, as opposed to with the trollers a lot of times that are pulling nightcrawler harnesses, you're seeing limits of walleyes and a few big perch. We're seeing lots of perch and a few nice walleyes mixed in. So these are all weed-oriented fish. Most of the time the folks are out in those newly emergent weeds out in those areas, where the same places where the mayflies are hatching, and you're going to have all of the above. It's going to be one big happy family where you're going to have perch, you're going to have wallies, and you're going to have smallies, although the smallies are still they're closer to shore right now for the most part, because they're still either spawning or just coming off the spawn. So there's a lot of the smallies are still in tighter than where a lot of the perch and the walleyes are going to be at this time of the year. But don't worry, if it warms up enough, they'll be headed out that way soon enough. And I'm sure there's still some local populations of fish that are even going to be out in those deeper areas already anyways. Walleyes. There's a lot of walleyes being caught on swim baits out here. A lot of guys that have fished all spring, jigging. The Detroit and St. Clair rivers are their freezers are full, and they're kind of tired of catching walleyes that fill in the freezer style. And now they're after a little more entertainment, and throwing those swim baits at them is a great way to catch fish. I know my buddy Isaac has been going out in the evenings into the dark of night, and he's been both drop shotting and throwing swim baits and been doing really good. Now, just before we did the report, he sent me a picture of a nice one he had literally just caught, and he's out in 12 to 14 feet of water right now. And like I said, he's been drop shotting and throwing swim baits and doing really well, really consistent bite. One of our customers, Rachel, she sent in a picture of her first swim bait walleye. So she was excited. First one she's caught using a swim bait out there. So awesome. Great job. Great catch. And my buddy Lucas was also out there casting for muskies. And he proves that, when a walleye is hungry, he's hungry. And this walleye ate a 10-inch white Poseidon, which is, by the way, a really good bait for muskies. And Lucas shows us that too, because this was the muskie opener this last weekend, and that walleye is really lucky, because if that muskie would have seen him first before he ate that Poseidon, I guarantee you he would have eaten that walleye. Muskies love walleye too, just like we think they're tasty. Muskies think they're tasty as well, and they eat their fair share of walleye out there. There's been more than a couple of times bringing a walleye to the boat and have a muskie grab it, T-bone that walleye, and you fight that walleye all the way, or you should say you fight that muskie all the way up to the boat, and you think you've got him and you're going to get him in the net, and he just lets go of that walleye, and you just end up with a mangled walleye. So that happens a lot out here on the lake. Also happens a lot with smallies as well. So they eat more than their fair share of smallmouths and walleyes out here. So let's see. Oh, Garrett Samsel too. You guys know I always follow him. He's still proven that he can get it done up there on the St. Clair River. He's taking his clients out in the morning. They're getting a quick limit of walleyes, and then they go out and they chase smallies the rest of the day. They're getting both post-spawn fish up there, a few spawners still, but we're still getting a lot of reports of fish on beds down through the mile roads, okay? A lot of the guides that I talk to on a daily basis, the guys that are doing 50 and 75 fish days out there, are still seeing a lot of fish that are still actively spawning. Yes, there's a lot of post-spawn fish, and there's a few pre-spawn fish as well too, but that's going to be starting to really wind down, okay? That eventually it has to end. Eventually they're all going to be spawned out, and they're going to all start moving out a little bit deeper. But with the conditions we have right now, with the crazy temperature changes and everything, there's a lot of fish that are in different stages. Now, one thing, if you're a smallmouth fisherman and you didn't listen to me last week and you didn't put any top water baits in your boat, you need to do that. The top water bite this week, especially early in the morning, like the last couple of mornings that have been really flat calm, have been just fantastic. And a lot of our customers have been coming in just telling us what a blast they've had catching smallies on top water. And that's not going to slow down anytime soon. With this kind of slow mayfly hatch, and I expect it to be kind of slow and drawn out because of the water temps, we're gonna have a really, really strong top water bite, and the longer it lasts, the more these fish are gonna get into that pattern, and the more of them are gonna get in on that game of feeding top water. So, and it's just a lot of fun catching smallies on top water. So take advantage of it if you can. And it looks like we got great, like I said, great conditions this week. If we do have really light east winds, that's going to bring a lot of mayflies in along the shoreline in relatively shallow water, and it should stack them up, and we should have a great top water bite. Let's see. Trying to think if there's anything else. I guess one of the other things I should mention is for you guys is that there's still been a significant amount of, or I should say, a significant number of schools of white bass working the shoreline in and around the store down at the Metro Park. And it's not uncommon that you'll find me down there mid-morning after I get some of the early morning stuff at the shop down at the point casting. And there's been a couple of days down there where the white bass have been right on the shoreline, and it's been an absolute blast. And it kind of brings me back to my early years fishing when we used to chase white bass as kids on our bikes up and down it through St. Clair shores at all the different points, going point to point, chasing all those white bass. And I even got one of the kids used to tease me in school, and he nicknamed me Silver Bass or Johnny Silver Bass or something crazy like that back in like 6th grade, because I'd get out of school and I'd blast down to the pier and go down there and cast for white bass. But I still love to do that, only now I got an electric bike and a lot better equipment. Yeah, so that's a blast down there if you get a chance to do it. South River Road is another place that those white bass will show up early in the morning. It's usually an early morning bite and then an evening bite. Same thing down there at the Metro Park if they're around. If they had the 9 Mile Pier open in St. Clair Shores, that would be a good one. Sometimes Blossom Heath there in St. Clair Shores will have fish down there in the morning as well. So those fish will herd bait fish in. They'll school them up, bring them up in close to shore. I've also got a nice walleye this week down there casting some smallies. So you get a lot of different fish when you've got that much bait fish activity on the shoreline. So for you boaters, one thing I've noticed with a lot of you guys that are from out of state, and I'm guessing this is just one of those things that it goes back to you're used to fishing largemouth, so you're used to just running up and down the shoreline, flipping the shoreline. But it always amazes me when I'm shore fishing the number of bass boats that are just in kind of flipping the shoreline for largemouths. And I'm going to guess a lot of the same guys that come in and say that they're having a hard time catching smallies, but a lot of times you guys, where your boats are positioned is right where those fish are positioned out there in the water, like right in that transition zone or that drop-off area where it's dropping 6 to 8 feet. So if you are going to work the shoreline area, don't think of it like you're largemouth fishing. Back off of the shoreline further, get off 25, 30, 40, 50 yards and work that middle zone where you would normally be running your boat when you're setting up to actually fish the shoreline. I think you'll catch bigger smallies doing that, especially early morning. But eventually that shoreline bite is going to peter out and these fish are going to move deeper and deeper. Places like Metro, which is a point that sticks out and is really close to deep water, is still an area where those fish will move and transition in the morning and the evenings and be like pretty close to the shoreline because they're so close to that deep water. But in a lot of those areas like the mile roads, eventually here, all you're going to do cut up in real tight like that is catch really small juvenile fish where those larger fish are going to be more offshore. So just a word of advice, get off that shoreline. You're going to have better quality fish out there. We just got a load of musky tackle in this week. We got Chaos rods in. We got a pretty good restock on the Chaos plastics, swim baits, and we just got Spanky spinners and their new M7 and M9 Pro crankbaits in. So if you're in the area, come into the store, check that out, take advantage of the great weather, get out there, take advantage of the amazing fishing we should have this weekend on Lake St. Clair. Hey gang, if you like our content, hit the little subscribe button and the bell icon and you'll be notified as soon as we put out new stuff.